of you all will discuss what is necessary, what is expected of teachers to welcome the changes in the coming years. On the first session, we will have Dr. Yoshikaga. She's coming from UNESCO headquarters in Paris. She'll be presenting 21st century learning and its implication to be professional teachers. Dr. Yoshikaga is a program specialist in charge of early childhood education at UNESCO headquarters since 1998. She is responsible for developing and implementing ECCE project, promoting global partnership, and providing technical assistance to UNESCO units. She is now working with Siamno Chechek on STEP project.
Dr. Abdullah's team came to Paris to receive which has been within the framework of a project led by our UNESCO Bangkok office. So just a big picture thing in the very beginning. I've taken this from the OECD, the Future of Education and Skills, which was published in 2018. So basically, there are these three pillars through which we can think about our contemporary challenges. So these three pillars, as you know, are the pillars that define sort of the sustainable development issues. First of all, the environmental. So there's climate change occurring, there's a depletion of resources. We really have to change our habits and lifestyle, the way we consume things, the way we want things. So this is one of the biggest challenges that we are facing. The second is economic. So as you all know, there are innovations going on due to new technologies, including biotechnology, artificial intelligence, digital technology. They're all over us, and they are all over our lives, economic lives, social lives. So this creates opportunities and gains, but at the same time it creates tensions, it creates confusion, it creates more complexity. And this creates also, of course, jobs that are new, which never existed before, changing the job market, so the requirements for the job market, which will be successful in this 21st century. Well, of course, we talk very much about data, big data. We have easy access to data, but is it true? Is it fake? There are all these kind of issues that everybody has to grapple with, and we need to also be able to support children in being able to navigate that kind of thing. So the third thing is social. So the growth in global population, migration, urbanization, with increasing cultural and social diversity. There's also the big issue about widening inequalities while the world is getting more wealthy. There's conflict and instability that are menacing our populations. There are threats of war and terrorism, which is escalating. So these are the big picture challenges, but then that's the kind of challenges that we really confront at the everyday life level as well. UNESCO published, I guess, a week or a couple of weeks ago, a new report on global education monitoring. UNESCO publishes every year, almost every year, what we call Global Education Monitoring Report. And each time there is a specific issue featured. So this year, the issue of migration and displacement was featured in this report, and you're welcome to access and read about it. So this report says that 1 out of 8 people is an internal migrant worldwide. 1 out of 3 people lives in the country other than the one where we were born, so international migrants. 1 out of 80 people are displaced within our cross borders by conflicts or natural disasters. And 9 out of 10 of these live in low and middle income countries. So these are really serious numbers, which has profound implications for education, equity, and living together. So there is a very big literature already. You can see it on the internet, you can Google them, about 21st century skills or 21st century learning. I think we need a whole day to dive into this body of literature. But I just wanted to highlight a few things which I came across. So there is a professor who is an expert in Harvard University. Let me see. He's called Tom Wagner, and he published a seminal book about global education challenges. And let me see. This profile, expert in residence at Harvard University's New Innovation Lab, and he's a senior research fellow at the Learning Policy Institute. He has been a teacher, and then he's been working as a consultant. Well, he's apparently very famous, so I should read him as well. So what he's saying is that there are 7 must-have, in bracket, business skills for future-oriented education. One is critical thinking, problem solving, which enables enable us to continuously improve our capacities, our lives. The second one is collaboration across networks and lead by influence, so leadership. Also, but then being able to collaborate at the same time. Agility and adaptability. So the thing is that in today's world, there is a lot of restructuring going on, which might be unpredictable for workers. Workers have to be agile, and flexible, and to be adaptable to the new situations and unexpected situations. So that's the third one. The fourth one is initiative, and employees are looking for people who can think out of the box. So that's it. The fifth is effective oral and written communication. So it's not enough to just be able to speak and write. It says you have to be able to persuade effectively. Anyways, so the sixth is accessing and analyzing information. So with lots of data available now, it's very critical to be able to understand what's the critical information. The last one is curiosity and imagination. So innovations for the new economy that are taking on the issues of sustainability. So these are the 7 must-have skills from Tony Wagner. All right, so let's look at another suggestion. This is coming from the Partnership for 21st Century Learning. It's p21.org. If you're interested, you can have a look on the internet. They have developed something called Early Learning Framework, and it's a very concise document, accessible. And it defines examples of early learning skills and outcomes for toddlers. All right, yeah, we are okay. Toddler preschoolers preschoolers, kindergarten, pre-kindergarten, and then kindergarten level children. So the 4 C's, according to the 21st Century Early Learning Framework: creativity and innovation, critical thinking and problem solving, communication, and collaboration. Sounds very familiar, and sounds, well, it resonates with what Todd Wagner has said. There's another way of thinking about the 21st century learning, and I'm really happy that I had some suggestions from Professor Carmen Daldi from New Zealand. She introduced me to this literature. So it's actually a suggestion from Terry Haig. He's the director of TeachThought. So the way of thinking about 21st century learning, not in terms of skills as such, but the pathway learners use naturally when they are trying to understand things. So the first channel or pathway is the logic response. Learning as a conversation. So it can be a conversation at the personal level, local level, direct, in distance, or digitally based. The second one is community interaction. So there are different kinds of communities: local, physical, digital, and niche communities. These nurture relationship and frame content that is learned. The third one is abstraction and creativity. So creativity is not just about creative, spontaneous, great ideas, but also it's also about thinking and finding the overlap between big and little ideas that would resolve daily challenges. Media literacy, the first one. It's critical to keep up with media literacy, digital literacy, but then it's also important to be able to grasp nuances of the digital platform. Play. Play is another channel for 21st century, which resonates well in early childhood education. So it's the opposite of compliance. Children freely experiment, show ambition, follow their curiosity, and take risks, design, evolve, and connect. So play is very powerful, as you know. Lastly, there is self-directed learning. So play has a big part of this self-directed learning. It includes different learning forms. So, for example, project-based learning, game-based learning, academic learning. The children themselves engage in by following their own criteria of quality. All right. So, what do teachers need to do, or what kind of teachers we would want to be able to encourage these kind of skills, these kind of the 21st century learning? I jotted some ideas of my own, and I would be curious to know from you what you think, what kind of teachers we should be having who are capable of meeting the challenge of being the 21st century teachers. So I think of teachers as lifelong learners, everybody else as everybody else. I think of teachers as facilitators and supporters of child development. I think of teachers being able to listen to children, listen to parents, listen to community people, and being reflective. I think of teachers who are sensitive and caring, and those who are being able to work in a team, collaboratively, sharing ideas, and
making mistakes together and trying out new things and discuss why it didn't work, why it worked, where it worked. And then leadership is being one of the key things and being able to do teamwork. Collaborators with parents and communities and other sectors, health sectors, protection sectors, any other sectors, or any other realms of life, connecting with them and support it. But then the teachers, they need to be supported, they need to be encouraged by communities. They should be encouraged by good conditions of work, good institutions and good systems, good policies. So what else? I was thinking last night maybe that everybody has sort of like moments where they got impressed by something or they kind of clicked into your mind, which makes you think more. And I think it's important to remember those moments and those episodes. So I just want to share my little episodes. So the first one, important to know your immediate environment. This comes from a teacher and a teacher educator from Kenya. The first flag is from Kenya. So I had the pleasure of going to Kenya to work there with the people, with the policymakers, with teacher educators, a long time ago. And then we were on a visit to a private preschool, which is very well resourced, fee paying, only privileged children could go. Very beautiful in terms of classroom infrastructure. But then I was together with this person who is the teacher educator called and she was interacting with the teachers and with the kids there. And then I was observing her doing that. She went to the courtyard where there were lots of trees and plants. And then she grabbed a few children. And then she asked, okay, do you know the name of this plant? It's supposedly, I don't remember the name of it, but it was a plant which was growing everywhere in that region. Very beautiful with white flowers. And then they said, so the kids, they didn't know the name of the plant. And then she said, well, it's really important to remember those. I mean, it's really important to know what you have in your community, in your neighborhood, what kind of plants are growing, and what kind of smell it gives. When does it grow? It's very important as much as reading and writing. You need to be open, you need to know, and it's related to your identity. So that was like one episode, which I remember after 15 years. The second episode was that I met some people from Croatia. That's the flag of Croatia. And it's actually the teachers who are associated with OMEP. It's a world organization for preschool education. So they came to Paris to visit us, to get to know what UNESCO was doing, and I had the pleasure to receive them. So they were speaking about their own project, which were promoting intercultural education in early childhood education, because there are lots of children in preschools in Croatia with different backgrounds, with different from those from immigrant families, so from different countries getting together. And they were speaking about the negative approach that's sometimes present in the communities, that if the kids are not speaking Croatian, they think that they know nothing, they don't have any resources, they come to the preschool not knowing the language of instruction. But then they were fighting against the stereotype and negative attitude towards children who do have lots of resources. They're rich, their languages, their cultures, which might be different from the ones of Croatia, but so they were trying to develop projects for promoting this intercultural understanding. And the catchword I caught was that cultures give wings to children, and I thought that was very beautiful. And so that I remember, and I think about, when I think about the 21st century learning, I kind of associate this episode. But the last thing is from Indonesia. I think I got the right flag. That was yesterday. Yesterday we had the pleasure to visit the university. I don't remember the name, so I'm sorry. Okay. So the director, Dr. Asad, he was very reflective about early childhood education at his closing speech, and he was talking about the arts of listening, which should be an important thing in early education. And I thought, well, that's a nice phrase. Because listening, talk about listening as a teacher skill that's needed in early education. But he was also talking about arts of listening by children, from what I understood. And listening. And then I thought, okay, maybe not like just listening, but really trying to understand it and being able to critically listen. And that kind of resonates with what we are talking about today. So that's something I added last night, and I would be curious to know what your episode might be. I have time? Okay. So I'd like to show you a few things which might be related to 21st century learning and supporting teachers. Okay, so UNESCO works for sustainability. I was very fortunate to participate in the international workshop that was organized by OMEP in Sweden, and I worked with Professor Krumling and many other people. So I think that, to my knowledge, this was one of the first international workshops that really focused our thinking on what is it that could be called education for sustainability in early years. And we had 35 participants from 16 countries. And everybody was giving thoughts, their visions, their practices from different contexts. So we put together this report about this workshop. And even though, it was published in 2008, I think it's still, I consider, relevant today. One of the things that Professor Krumling Samuelson suggested, and I think it's shared by the OMEP members, is about 7 R's of education for sustainability. So reduce, reuse, recycle, respect, repair, reflect, and refuse. Refuse to be wasting, I think. So In the workshop, we talked very often about this. Early childhood pedagogical traditions align very well with education for sustainability. For example, interdisciplinary approach, not discipline-based approach, holism, use of the outdoors for learning, that's very present in early childhood education. Learning through concrete experiences, experiential education, real-life projects, and involvement of parents and communities. These are supporting actually our working with young children. And it says it's not necessary to invent entirely new pedagogies to do education for sustainable development in early years. We can build on its pedagogical tradition to do so. There is a Professor Arian Walls who is not an early childhood specialist, who is more associated with higher education, but he works a lot with headquarters on sustainability. And I really like kind of the way he says about kindergarten education. So let me read this. So let us return to kindergarten and explore why kindergartens offer more for moving towards a more sustainable world than many of our universities. Kindergarten ideally is or can be places where young children live and learn, explore boundaries in a safe and transparent world without hidden agendas. Oops. There are no dumb questions in kindergarten. There's always time for questions and questioning. Another one, which was highlighted by Dr. Dewey in his opening remarks, we want to involve teachers in collecting data that would serve us to construct better policies, better teacher educational instruments to collect data from teachers and the head principals, headmasters of early childhood centers. So we work with Indonesia as well as 6 other countries. So there's the Dominican Republic, Ghana, Namibia, the Philippines, Togo, and Vietnam. So it's really looking at their situation and needs regarding the training and professional development, looking at their pedagogical and professional practices, working conditions and job satisfaction, and profiles of teachers and settings in which they work. So this is just one example of a question which appears in this survey questionnaire. It's about this. So the question goes, thinking of all of the collaborative activities in these early childhood centers, how often do you engage in the following activities on the average? Yeah. So we have choices, just work jointly as a team with the same group of children, or provide feedback with other staff about their practice, discuss approaches to young children's learning with